Thanks, Nicole. Great to be here. So, parkrun, hey? Well, who's been to parkrun? Hands up. How many parkrunners in the room? Very good. Who's heard of parkrun? Good. Who hasn't heard of parkrun? Okay. Sean, where are you? Hashtag love parkrun. Where are you? Where is he? Anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to start off just with a video. And the video sort of sets the scene, I guess, for a little bit about what we're all about. It's only a couple of minutes, so.
The great thing about parkrun is not only is it a free time 5K run for the benefit of everyone, but we engage a number of people of all different running levels. We have families, we have people who have never run before and their whole goal is to run just 5K. It's an awesome environment with great friends and community.
So today Ash and I are both hitting our milestone run of 100 parkruns. It's very welcoming, it's a no pressure environment. There's runners, walkers, people with prams, dogs, kids, all are welcome. Everyone's supported in every way and yeah, just a great sense of community.
I enjoy it because everybody supports me, even though I come in second to last or third to last. I get great big cheers and claps and you know, it's quite rewarding in that respect and it's a challenge for me to get the 5 kilometres every week.
Okay, so there's a little snapshot of parkrun. That was filmed at Canning River Parkrun over in Western Australia. So what's it all about and what are we doing and so on. So I guess I'll try and tell you all about parkrun in the next 35 minutes and I'm conscious of who's in the room and I guess it'd be great if everyone could go home with one thing that maybe we're doing that you could look to integrate into what you're doing, then I guess that would be a successful session. So hopefully I can achieve that for you guys. So at the moment, last Saturday, we had our biggest ever attendance. Just over, it was about 18,500 people around the country park ran at 141 different events. And it's been a pretty amazing journey to get up to that level. We've got 245,000 odd members, roughly, growing at about 2,000 members every week, probably more than that actually, about 2,500 members every week. Not every member comes and runs, and I'll probably touch on that a little bit later. I guess we're growing at 100% a year. So this year, I guess strategically, we're calling it a year of consolidation, but we still doubled in size. So, and that's the nature of this organic communities. I can't control how many people are going to register with parkrun because they do it online. I can control how many events we launch, but even with trying to do that and trying to rein it in a little bit, we've still grown by 100,000 members in the last 12 months. And as Nicole mentioned in her preamble, it's really becoming much more than just a run, much more than just sport. It really is about the health now of communities and a major health promotion, not just here in Australia, but in 11 countries around the world and growing. So there's a map of where all the parkruns are. So if the parkrunners in the room, you might be able to identify your little dot on the map there. You can see we're as high up as Cairns. We've got Darwin right up the top there and right down to Hobart down the bottom. And that little dot in the ocean is Hamilton Island on the right and sort of everywhere in between. So it's a pretty tough job that I have to go out to these events from time to time and somebody had to launch Hamilton Island a few weeks ago. So I took that one for the team. But that's where parkrun is and you can see it's very densely, obviously East Coast at the moment and it kind of reflects, I guess, the nature of the Australian population. So our mission is quite simple and it's to provide a free, timed, weekly 5 kilometre run or walk in any community that wants one. and there's obviously the benefits that go along with that. But that's the mission, free timed weekly 5K. And when we refer to any community that wants one, what I mean by that is it's not my job to sit around with a map of the world or a map of Australia and say we should have a parkrun here or we should have a parkrun there. But rather, each week I probably get about a dozen emails from people who say, I live in Wagga Wagga and I ran a parkrun when I was in Sydney visiting my relatives and I want to bring parkrun to Wagga Wagga. And we then go through a process with those people to help them bring parkrun to the community. So essentially, instead of being a top-down organisation, we come up from the bottom, we come up from the communities. People say they want one, they become the advocates, they make it happen. We just enable them to do that. As you saw from the video, it was really nicely shot, a bit of drone footage there over the bridge. And parkruns, they happen obviously in parks. It's a run in the park. But you come to someone like where we are here on the Gold Coast, and a lot of our runs are on the beaches, or obviously you can go around lakes and on trails. And there's no one type of best kind of parkrun course. But they happen in beautiful locations a lot of the time. And so it can be a real showpiece for an area. Going to a parkrun has become quite a tourist activity for a lot of our members. We call it parkrun tourism. That's another hashtag, Sean, wherever you are. And a lot of people like to travel around and actually visit these parkruns because they know when they get there, they're going to get their event and they're going to get the community that's around that event, and that's why they do it. Of course, the health benefits of running and physical activity are well known, and certainly, attending a parkrun goes a part of the way to doing what people should do, ideally in a week, to stay healthy and active. So we're the Saturday bit, a Saturday morning bit, and hopefully people are doing stuff for the other days as well. Okay, so it's free. So what's the catch? And it's free to the user. That's what we mean. So anyone who wants to participate in parkrun, you just sign up on our website at parkrun.com.au. You register online. We ask about 10 questions of you. So it's a pretty non-arduous sign-up process. And you then emailed with your own parkrun athlete barcode. Any of the parkrunners in the room, are any of you carrying your parkrun barcode right now? Come on, someone must have it on. Because you can get it on a bit of paper, but you can have it on a wristband as well, like there. So there's my parkrun barcode. And you can get it on little lanyards that you stick on your shoes and so on. And I'm sure someone who's a parkrunner in the room would have it on right now, but they're just too shy to yell out. So it's completely free to register. However, of course, it's got to be paid for by something and someone. So we survive on commercial sponsorship. So at the moment, we're lucky enough to have two major national partners who are Suncorp Bank and Stockland. And then there's, of course, grant funding. And so we've been pretty successful with being able to work with local councils and also state governments to access grant funding where that's available to help cover the cost of our events. We have digital advertising on our website, which is a pretty small part of what we do. We've got a merchandise store, so things like this. We're really upfront with our members. If they buy one of these, $5 goes to parkrun. The rest goes into the manufacturer. But people see it as essentially like a donation to help us continue to do what they're doing. So like any not-for-profit or even sporting organisation, raising revenue, it's tough and it's a big part of my job. But that's how we do it, to try and make it free. And one of the challenges for me as a general manager moving forward is that as we are growing exponentially, we need our little team of staff to also grow a little bit to try and help. And so it's certainly one of my challenges for the next year or so is to generate some more revenue, to bring in some more staff. So it's timed, but there's something we say about parkrun a lot, and that's that it's a run and not a race. And what do I mean by that? Because you might say, well, people are out there having a race. And I won't deny that. If you go to a parkrun and you see the fast people at the front, they're having a go. They're running fast. They're trying to stay ahead of the other person. So I guess technically it's a race. But from the ethos of what we do, parkrun is a run. And we don't encourage anything about, I guess, winning or losing in what we we do. And I guess one of the big ways we do that is simply through the language that we use. And as an example, we've got Cameron Hart over here, race director of the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. But within parkrun, we don't have race directors, we have run directors. And that's something that's actually changed in my time in parkrun. When I first got involved 4 years ago, we had race directors, and we made a conscious decision to remove the word race because it made people think of competition, and a lot of people are scared of competition, scared of that. So we removed that word from our vocab. So we've got the run directors instead of the race directors. We've got first finishers instead of winners. We've got final finisher or last finisher instead of, I guess you'd never say loser, but anyway, you get my drift. And it's really important, and I think a lot of people, I guess, are encouraged to come along because they see that we're not trying to push the competitive element. And let me clarify too, I'm not saying competition's bad at all, because in other forums that's brilliant, but in what we do, in our model, we try and avoid that. Here's an example of what we do with our time. Well, because you might say, why do you time it if it's not a race? Well, we use our time because we want people to be accountable to themselves. We want people to be able to keep track of, how did I go this week? How did I go last week? And then here's an example of, this is an email that was sent to me a little while back. Does it have the date? I don't know, it's probably 6 months ago or something. And what you can see here, if you analyse that email, it tells you a bit about what we do. So we've got our sponsors there, who I mentioned earlier. So we're thanking our sponsors. We've got the event, so Kira Parkrun, which is here on the Gold Coast. You might know Kira as a famous surfing break here on the Gold Coast. It's also famous within parkrun. It's one of the fastest parkrun courses in the country. So if you are a parkrunner and you want to come and run a fast 5K, Kira Parkrun's a good one. So Kira Parkrun, event 165, so it's been going a couple of years now, Kira Parkrun. There's the time. It was my 129th parkrun that day, so you would have heard in the video, the audio wasn't great, but it had the couple talking about how they had a milestone run. It was their 100th run. And within parkrun, we recognise key milestones for people to keep them motivated, and we give them a little reward. So when they get to their 50th parkrun, they earn a red T-shirt that the couple were actually wearing in the photo. They get that for free. That's through one of our partners. And then 100th parkrun, 250th parkrun, and we've recently had a fella in the UK do his 500th parkrun. So we keep track of the number of parkruns that you've done. It's got my position, 5th male out of 130 parkrunners, 2nd in my age category, 35 to 39. And then you can click on it and you can find out more information. But some people, all they want to see is their time. They delete the email, they're happy. But a lot of people we find, and I guess it's building a little bit what from Tim Longhurst said earlier, is they're really interested in the data. They're really interested in this information and being able to plug it into their Strava or into some other wearable device and see how they're going. And so you get that pretty heavily with parkrun if you want it. If you want to find out more about your data, you can look at your age grade. So you can see 67.57 is my age grade. And that's loosely comparing my 5K time to the world record for 5K in my age category. So I'm a little bit off, as you can see. But we have a lady in Victoria who's 100%. She's the world record holder. So she runs at parkrun a lot. So she's World Masters champion. So I earned 96 points that day, and that's another way we reward our runners and our volunteers for coming down to parkrun. Is you earn points in what we call our annual points competition, and so you earn points if you run, you earn points if you volunteer, and towards the end of each event's annual calendar, that becomes a bit of a hot competition as to who's volunteered the most, who's run the most, and then they just it's a token gesture at the end of each year. People get a medal. It's like you're in primary school athletics and you win something. And but I guess it goes to show that whatever they're getting, they really care. They really care about it. So people are really invested in it. They've put in a year to try and get to this position of being the annual points prize winner at their event. And so that's, I guess it's another little thing that we do. Just going to have a glass of water. So here's some more data. We won't spend too much on this, but you can see it breaks down my parkrun life, if you want to call it that. So that black t-shirt that you see at the top, that means I'm in the 100 club. And any 100 clubbers amongst our parkrunners? No one? Anyone? 50 club? There we go. Gareth Candy. Well done. So I'm in the 100 club. It's got my breakdown by my last number of events that I've run. And then you can break it down even further. So as I say, if you're a stats person, if you're a data person, if you're a Strava person, you can link your profile to your Strava. You can just look at it here. You can click on your cousin who lives in the UK and say, hey, I was faster than you today. So it gives all the data that you could want for people to analyse. And it's 5K every week, same place, same time. And that's something that people find a little bit strange. And I guess if you talk to someone who is, and I say this in inverted commas, a runner, they'd say to you, well, why would I want to run the same, well, first of all, 5K at the same time in the same place every week? But ultimately, and this might sound a bit strange, but parkrun is not for runners. We love it when runners come along because it's really inspiring to see fast people come down and run fast and be wonderfully athletic. But ultimately, the core people that we're trying to get to parkrun are the people at the other end of the pack. So it's the people who have actually registered for parkrun 12 months ago and they've been so nervous and so worried about what are people going to say about me in this running gear, and what if I go, and I'm sure this is a common one for everyone and you can probably relate it to any sport, but what if I'm last, or what if I'm the worst? And you know, the important people to me at parkrun are these people who are nervous about getting out and trying to change their life and be healthy and be active. And so they're the people we want to get. And the way we do that is by creating something that's inclusive, it's easy, and it's in the same place at the same time every week. And that's why the formula works. And even 5 kilometres, it's not a coincidence. It's not a random number that we picked out of the air. Basically, 5 kilometres is a distance that a runner or an athletic person can come and do on a Saturday morning and feel accomplished having done it. You know, you do a 5K in 20 minutes, you're tired. You know, you've had a good run, and you can then say, I've done my exercise for the day. Or even you see a lot of people will come and they'll run 10K before parkrun and then line up on the start line and do their 5K time trial. But more importantly, again, for the other people at the bottom, the slowest walkers do parkrun in an hour. And that's really key, because when we're talking to volunteers about come and give up your time to do this, if people were taking 2 hours on the course, it'd be a much more difficult proposition to try and get volunteers to come along. So 5K, it's a great distance. It's like a magic number. It's the distance that the fast people can do and run fast, and the slow people can do and get around and not feel like they're keeping everybody waiting. Okay. So who's coming to parkrun? Well, I guess that's an interesting question, and the answer is kind of everyone. It's a really broad cross-section. But you'll see 51% of our parkrunners are female and 49% male. So it's essentially 50-50, but it's definitely skewed in the female persuasion a little bit. And then you can be registered for parkrun from the age of 4. And to be honest, not many people register at the age of 4 unless their parents are just doing it for fun so they can get their little barcode. But you don't see lots of 4-year-olds doing 5K parkruns. But the majority of the younger children who come to parkrun are walking with mum and dad. Mum and dad might be pushing the pram and kids are walking along as well. So you can get your barcode from the age of 4. And I know the oldest parkrunner that I know of is up on the Sunshine Coast, and I think he's 93. And he still gets around in about 45 minutes. He's done 100. I remember he said to me after his 50th that he had only one more year, and I thought, oh, wow, hope he makes it. So, and he did. So it was brilliant. So yeah, in their 90s, you've got people well into their 90s, or into their 90s doing parkrun. So, and it's, as I say, it's open to all. So ages, genders, fitness levels, essentially, and it's a big part of what we do, is we try to be as inclusive as you could get, pretty much. And if there's something we're doing that could be more inclusive, I want to know about it, because we want parkrun to be viewed as something that anyone literally can do, literally anyone. And even with our courses, we try and, where possible, make them wheelchair friendly and so on. And we have in our results processing, when we do it after the events, we can actually mark runs that have been done on wheelchairs. So we have a category for that. So, you know, we want it to be as inclusive as possible. And I guess one of the biggest elements of that is the free part, and I know I mentioned it before, but I guess if you try and put a dollar value onto a family of 4 doing a suburban fun run, you know, it's probably $100, you know, conservatively. And so the fact that parkrun's free, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, because of the support of our sponsors and various levels of government and stuff, I guess it's a really important differentiation as to what we do. We also see that through parkrun, it's become, I guess, a funnel for people to get involved in physical activity and then go on and almost like graduate out of the parkrun system into other sport, other running events and running clubs. And we encourage all of our events locally to network with the local running clubs and the local running events, so that these people who come to parkrun and are looking for something more know where that something more is. And, you know, I always talk about, well, it doesn't have to be running. It might be they come to parkrun, but then they end up doing touch football or netball or whatever. So we'd like to view parkrun as a way of, I guess it's that first step of people getting healthy and meeting people and making new friends. And then from there, they've got a plethora of choice, as we know in the room here today, the number of different sports. And I guess, you know, if you are running a sport, which many of you are, like, look to engage with your local parkrun event. Let them know what's happening so that they can promote that to the local parkrun community, because they're always looking for things to do. No flyering though, we don't like that. So just digital. So there's a bit of a graph. It's really just alluding to what I said before. I'll skip through that one. There's a great photo. It's a man and his dog. So you're allowed to run with your dog on a small lead at parkrun. It's actually how I got into parkrun. I was living in London, and I heard there was some running event I could run with my dog, and I thought that sounds great. So I took my dog up to Wimbledon Park in southwest London and had a run, and that was me done, parkrun. So it's one of those things you can run with your dog, and I guess it's one of the few physical pursuits or exercise pursuits that mum and dad can actually participate with the kids, as opposed to mum and dad spectating the children or vice versa. So we love to see families get involved, and we have a lot of school groups that come down and so on. So we try to be as family friendly as possible. So participation rates, I've obviously already touched on that, but just if we go back a few steps, the first parkrun was actually launched right here on the Gold Coast, just down the road at Main Beach. So if anyone knows the Gold Coast, beautiful spot. And I was originally from Brisbane. I spent 10 years living in London, and that's when I found out about parkrun. Parkrun was started in 2004 in one park with 13 runners. And we now have over 700 events around the world every Saturday. So parkrun was at about 60 events when I found out about parkrun. My parkrun registration is 84,155, and we're just about to crack 2 million. So I registered 2010. So some growth going on there. Parkrun started here. I turned up on the Gold Coast, pretty much on the doorstep of council, and Sam hates it when I name drop her, but Sam Hughes, City of Gold Coast, sitting over there. I was banging down her door saying, I've got this running thing, what do you think about it? And it was quite convenient for me that Sam's an ex-Gold Coast Marathon winner, and Ron Clark was mayor at the time, so I didn't really have to convince the hierarchy about the benefits of running. But in April 2011, we launched the first event here at Main Beach, and I'll forever be grateful for the support that City of Gold Coast showed, and I guess they took a bit of a punt on this unproven idea. And we had I think it was 113 turned up at the first event, something like that anyway. A lot of them were expats from the UK who'd done parkrun overseas, but quite quickly the word spread, and we launched our second event in New Farm in Brisbane in September of that year. And then our third event was in Melbourne around Albert Park Lake in, I think it was November, and so on. And so now, as we saw on the map earlier, it's getting pretty big. So we're 141 events. We'll probably crack 250,000 members in the next week or so. And I don't know where it's going to end, to be honest. We'll see. I've got some graphs and stuff that kind of help us. I did this graph a few months back, and we've actually already, the numbers aren't right anymore because we've grown too quick. But you can see it's really gone exponentially, so quite steady growth in the first few years. And as I say, we're pretty much doubling in size from a membership perspective each year. And I think this year we'll probably launch about 40 new events, most likely. I think last year we launched about 50. So as I say, it was the year of slowing down this year, but anyway. And so what's the legacy of parkrun? And this article was quite interesting. It was published in The Guardian in the UK a few months back, and it was examining the legacy of London 2012. And without you having to read too much, it was basically saying that the legacy was a failure and that all this money had been invested by the government, but statistics were showing that actual participation rates amongst the whole population were well down. And it contrasted this to the grassroots movement of parkrun that had no investment from the government and was really a lot of the things that Tim talked about in the last presentation. It was this organic movement of people, the power of the group, and looking to do things differently and using technology and so on and so forth. And so it was contrasting the two. It was when the article came out, we were obviously very happy to read it. It was a really interesting piece and very positive for what we're doing. And so I guess we see parkrun has a future in shaping legacies of what we do and I guess trying to build lasting positive communities that create real change. And I'm not just talking about people running faster 5Ks, but people who can engage more in their communities and generations of people coming together. And you saw in the video the elderly lady high-fiving everyone as she was running through. I mean, when in normal life does that happen? I mean, it just doesn't. You don't get that generational mix as much as maybe would be ideal. So we see that all the time at parkrun. So the future looks bright, and there's a lot of things on the horizon for us here in Australia. We have a second product, if you want to call it that we'll be bringing out in the next year or so called Junior Parkrun. And it's already live in the UK. There's about 70 junior parkrun events, and it's Sunday morning, 9 a.m, 2 kilometres, and it's for 4 to 14-year-olds. And really this is, some of you were probably thinking when I said 4-year-olds can do parkrun, they shouldn't run 5K, they can't do that. And you're probably right in some regards. And so we've got junior parkrun, and it's brilliant. I was in the UK a few weeks ago, and I attended my first junior parkrun. It was a beautiful thing to see. So many children out in the park on a Sunday morning with their parents and doing the 2K. So that will undoubtedly be a success when we launch it. I have no doubt. And as a father, I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and for me, when I'm talking about legacy, is I want to see healthy children. I want to see junior parkrun, and I want to see kids come through that. I want to see them progress into big parkrun, if you want to call it that. And just be healthy. And even Michael Clark was talking about it earlier. It's just about children being active and healthy. And I think if everyone in this room would agree, and I'm sure you're all aspiring to that as well through your various sports, is bringing children through and active, healthy, and hey, if they end up winning the Olympic gold, then even better. So we've got Junior Parkrun, and then obviously right here on the Gold Coast in 2018, the Com Games is going to be held, and we'd love to be a part of that as well. We'd love, with our volunteers. So we have we have over 1,000 volunteers every week, and I'm probably not going to have time to too much about that. I'll talk a little bit about it, but we have 1,000 volunteers every week and growing who make parkruns happen. And so, we'd love those volunteers to be able to get involved outside of parkrun, and not just with sporting events, but in their communities, and I guess essentially change that culture of volunteering. It's a struggle, as we all know, to get volunteers, and there's a stigma about it, about what volunteering maybe means and what you can get out of it. But we're really proud of the way that we engage our volunteers within parkrun, and we acknowledge the volunteer role is just as important, if not more important, than the runner at parkrun. And our volunteers, probably pretty much the last thing that happens before we actually have a parkrun on a Saturday morning is round of applause for the volunteers. It's a really important part of acknowledging these people who give up their time. So I guess changing the culture of volunteering, or trying to I guess improve that culture of volunteering is something that we're trying to do. I have no doubt that there would be ways we could use parkrun to help improve Indigenous health. And many of you would know Rob D. Costello's Indigenous Marathon Foundation, and we're big supporters of that. And there might be ways we can help Deek or do parkrun events in Indigenous areas. So we see that as something completely we haven't even touched on yet. And then likewise for new Australians, there's obviously a lot of talk in the world about migration at the moment, and how can we help new Australians feel welcome in their communities. And we see running as a universal action. It's something that we think could be really great to try and help with that as well. Here's a little bit of feedback. I won't bore you with too much of it, but this is a great one. Last weekend at Torrens Parkrun in South Australia, 16 members of our family participated across 3 generations. First-timers, visitors from Victoria and Cairns, as well as the Torrens regulars. We proved that parkrun really is a family event. So we've got family, we've got tourism, we've got fitness. It's all happening there. So it's a great photo. That sums up parkrun right there. This is around the world last weekend, 734 events. You can read the rest. There's that hashtag, Sean. Get into it. And then the future. So I recently returned from our global get-together, and this is what the boss is saying. So this time in 2023, we won't be 2 million, we'll be 20 million. We won't have 10,000 volunteers each week, we'll have 100,000. We won't have 130,000 runners, we're going to have 1 million runners every week. And we'll have 7,000 events around the world. So the numbers are pretty mind-boggling. But that's where we're going, and to think that we've gone from 13 runners in one park in London in 2004 to 700 events and 130,000 runners every week. Now, I wouldn't be betting against it. And that's me. And I've got 3 minutes, 49. So, I'm wondering if anyone's got questions. Are we doing questions? Or yeah. So, happy to take a couple of questions. Yep, back corner.
We've got microphones.
Oh, we've got mics.
We've got microphones coming.
Okay, go. Sure. I think it's a mixture of good luck and good fortune. And when parkrun started, I mean, I wasn't there when parkrun started. I'm the Australian guy. But the founder, he was an injured runner, and he wanted to do something to stay engaged with his running community. And but he sort of tapped into something, because people who were not from his running community started coming. And we come to conferences like this and we hear about mega trends and so on, and it sounds a bit daunting. And as I say, I think when I talk about good luck, I think parkrun has kind of tapped into all these things almost by accident. Parkrun just happens to be the right event for the right time in history. And I often describe, in an answer to your question, that we're essentially living in the most connected world ever with our cyborg people, what did you say, cyborgs? However, we're also extremely disconnected from our communities. A lot of people are behind desks or commuting in the rat race or whatever it might be. And what you get with parkrun is you get real people, face to face, real engagement. And so I think it's the right event for the right time because of that human element. Every Saturday, familiar faces, etc., etc. I'd like to say we planned it all because we're brilliant, but I think it's a bit of good luck, good fortune.
Just a man with his hand up for a microphone. You're going to voice it as well.
Yeah, so the sponsors essentially fund the overall day-to-day of the organisation. So, like, someone's got to pay me. The money comes from there. So I'm not a volunteer. I started as a volunteer. I actually paid to start parkrun, but as many people here probably did to get involved with their sports. But now it's my job. And so essentially the organisation's funded by sponsors. But as we launch a new event, we look to, I guess, get the community to buy in, both in a financial sense and also in the activation sense. So I would say 75% of the time the money would come from local council or state government, normally local council, and the rest of the time it might be through small business, that sort of thing. And sometimes we don't get the money. Sometimes we just make a call. If there's a really passionate group of people, we don't want to stop them launching a parkrun, and we've probably got, I don't know, 30 events that had no funding. So.
I'm going to ask you a question while we get the microphone, maybe to come down to the lady in the front row. Insurance is, for me, I'm sitting there thinking, I get people ring and say, can I come and swim with your club? We have to get them to join our membership base because it comes with an insurance policy.
Yep.
How do you have so many people free, and do you have an insurance policy for all those people?
Tim Clark, where are you?
So then how do you, insurance policies cost money, so are they in part of that setup?
When I mentioned the sponsors pay for the overall running of the organisation, a key element of that is our public liability insurance that we get through Athletics Australia, who are in the room. They have the iRun program, which caters for large and small running events. Now, we're probably at the larger scale of what they do. But the other element to that, Nicole, is that we've done a lot of analysis about what is the risk of a 5K run or walk. And the risk of a 5K run or walk is actually very minimal. And so in terms of our risk management, every event is risk assessed. The risk assessment is signed off. We've got the insurance policy. We update the risk assessments every 12 months. So we feel that we're doing enough, and you can always do more, as you would know.
Of course, yeah.
But certainly, look, we tick all the boxes,
Yep.
and it's a great question and something that's very important within what we do.
We have a question here.
Thank you. You mentioned that there are weekly events all around the world. How do you retain volunteers?
Yeah, okay.
The magic question.
Yeah,
Tell us all.
So, starting at the beginning with the volunteers. So I mentioned that the initial volunteer for any event is the person who comes to me and says they want to start the event. So straight away, we've got someone who actually wants to volunteer and wants to do it. And so we work with them, and most events start off with that person and their cousins and partners and children, and it starts off as a family affair or their close friends. But I think people, they understand that a free event it doesn't take care of itself. And so if we charge 50 cents, no one would volunteer. I can tell you that now. But because it's completely 100% free, people seem to get that they have to give back. And we use the example to our runners that if every runner at every event volunteered only 3 times a year, we would never run out of volunteers, ever. And so I guess, as you know, for yourselves, it's how can you spread the work, spread the volunteering workload that you might have amongst the masses, rather than what is often the case of the same people putting it in each week. And so, so I guess it starts, we've got that bottom-up activation, and then it's free, so people want to do it again. And then we recognise our volunteers in really simple ways. Round of applause before each run. I mean, how many of you make sure that all your volunteers get a round of applause every time they volunteer? I don't know, but it's really small, but people love it. They love to be recognised. When we process our results online, part of that is we process our volunteering, and I haven't got time to go into the IT side of what we do, but people get an automatic email from that thanking them for their volunteering. It goes on the website for each event. Thank you to our heroes this week who volunteered. So it's really simple stuff that's built around the IT of what we do. I wouldn't say that's the only thing, but that's certainly some of the things that we do to retain volunteers.
Tim, thank you for spending some time with us and letting us have a little glimpse of what parkrun is all about. I see it every Saturday morning at Albert Park, just across the road from where we swim. So, no, I've got 2 dodgy knees, so you will never get me running.
All right.
But thank you very much. And can we give him a round of applause as he departs the stage?